Welcome, everyone. Today, we begin week 6 topic, business level strategy. This is one of the most practical chapters in strategic management. You already know that firms need resources and capabilities, and that the external environment matters. Today, we answer the big question: how does a firm actually compete in the market? By the end of this lecture, you'll be able to identify the 5 business level strategies, explain how each one works against competitive forces, and recognize which strategy a real company is using just by looking at how it operates. Let's get started. This is our schedule. And this is where we are. Business level strategy. We have a quiz with 4 questions, and you can write your answer in the discussion box again. Please do not create a new discussion box. Write your answer in the discussion box I created. So these are the learning objectives. So we have 7 learning objectives. And I want you to keep these in mind throughout our lecture. So notice that objectives 6.1 through 6.3 is about building the foundation. They tell us what business level strategy is and how it connects to customers and business models. And from 6.4 to 6.7, these are the heart of the lecture. The 5 actual strategies firms use. For each one, we'll ask, how does this strategy help a firm compete against rivals, buyers, suppliers, new entrants, and substitutes? And that's the 5 forces framework from our week 2, right? So think of today's lecture as a toolkit. By the end, you'll have 5 strategic tools you can identify and evaluate in the real world. So what exactly is business level strategy? Let's take a look at the definition. A business level strategy is an integrated and coordinated set of commitments and actions the firm uses to gain a competitive advantage by exploiting core competencies in a specific product market. Okay? So integrated and coordinated means this is not just a one decision, it's a whole set of consistent choices that work together. Okay? And commitments and actions means it requires real investment and follow through, not just a vision statement. Here's the most important insight. A business level strategy is fundamentally about creating differences. Your firm needs to be positioned differently from competitors. And how do you create that difference? Porter, the famous strategy scholar, gives us a clear answer. Either you perform the same activities as rivals, but in a more efficient or better way, or you perform different activities altogether. For example, Southwest Airlines does not just fly planes cheaper, it chooses not to offer assigned seats, not to use multiple airline hubs, and not to serve meals. These are different activities, right? Compare that to a firm that does the same things, but just negotiates harder to get lower costs? So this is the key question that drives everything else in this chapter. Before we get to the 5 strategies, let's talk about digital strategy because it shapes how every business level strategy is implemented today. A digital strategy is not a separate strategy. It's a layer that sits on top of everything else. Think of it as the lens through which a firm sees its customers and the tool it uses to implement its choices. Today, retailers use customer database to know what you want before you ask. Netflix uses viewing data to decide which shows to produce. Amazon uses purchase history to recommend products. All of this is digital strategy in action. The key point, digital strategy helps firms understand customer needs more clearly, and that insight drives innovation that creates more value. Without it, a firm is essentially flying blind in today's competitive landscape. Now, let's talk about the foundation of all business level strategies. So every business level strategy starts with one thing, which is the customer. Not the product, not the technology, the customer. Firms that consistently outperform rivals do 3 things extremely well when it comes to customers. First, reach. They connect with as many of the right customers as possible. Amazon's Prime program is a brilliant reach strategy. Once you are enrolled, Amazon becomes your first stop for almost everything. And second is richness. They develop deep, two-way knowledge relationships. Apple knows not just what products you buy, but what apps you use, how you listen to music, and when you upgrade. These richness allows Apple to develop products customers actually want. Third, affiliation. They keep customers engaged and coming back. Think about how Starbucks loyalty app keeps you checking in, collecting points, receiving personalized offers, and sometimes gifts. That's affiliation in action. Now, with these 3 dimensions in mind, every firm must answer 3 strategic questions. Who will we serve? What needs will we meet? And how will we meet them? So let's take each one. Let's go deeper into the 3 customer questions. Who, what, how? Who to serve? This is answered through market segmentation. Firms don't try to serve everyone the same way. They identify groups of customers with similar needs and build strategies around those groups. A great example is the Hill's Pet Nutrition Company. So Hill's Pet Nutrition does not sell just one cat food. It sells different formulas for kitten, adult cats, and senior cats over like 11 years old. Because their nutritional needs differ, so they segmented the market. What needs to satisfy? Customer needs. So customers have both primary and secondary needs. A primary need is the core reason you buy something. If you buy a car, Your primary need is transportation. The secondary needs are probably extras. Maybe you also want comfortable seats, good audio, or fuel efficiency and uh, luxury shape that you want to show off. So those are like the secondary needs. The firms must understand both levels. And third, how to satisfy those needs. This is where core competencies come in. A firm's how is shaped by what it does better than anyone else. If a company has exceptional logistics, it might satisfy customers by delivering faster. If it has a superior design talent, it might satisfy customers with better looking products. Core competencies are the how. So different companies have different core competencies, right? It's a great example of a design competence. Design and packaging competency make the business competitive. So the great example is Lush. Lush is a skincare company. Lush satisfies customer needs through its strong design and packaging competencies. The company uses colorful product presentation, creative shapes, and visually appealing displays that make shopping more enjoyable and memorable. Lush also meets the needs of environmentally conscious customers through minimal packaging. Like these soaps, they're selling these soaps without like a fancy package. They just wrap in paper. Okay. So these are matching with the consumer's needs of environmental protection. So reusable containers and package-free products are a great example of Lush design competency. Because of these strengths, Lush satisfies customers not only with product function, but also with beauty, experience, and sustainability. These three questions set the stage for the actual strategic choices we'll examine next. Now let's connect the concept of a business model to business level strategy. A business model is how the strategy makes money. You can have a great competitive position, but if you cannot convert that into revenue, it doesn't matter. Okay, I want to highlight three modern business model types, right? The franchise model. Franchise model is a classic. A great example is McDonald's, Burger King. McDonald's sets the strategy, the brand, the systems. Franchisees invest their own capital to execute locally. The firm creates value once, then replicates it thousands of times through franchise partners. And second, subscription. Subscription model is booming. Think Netflix, Spotify, and Canva design like apps. So there, even software companies like Adobe, instead of selling you a product once, they charge you monthly or annually. This creates predictable, recurring revenue and strong customer lock-in. Once customers are very satisfied with the service, then, they're locked in. They cannot leave. The digital platform. The digital platform model is the most disruptive. Uber does not own cars. Airbnb does not own hotels. They connect buyers and sellers on the digital marketplace. The bigger the platform, the more valuable it becomes. That's the network effect. Here's a key insight. A firm can use the same business level strategy, but with a very different business model. Both Walmart and Amazon pursue low cost, but their business models are radically different. Understanding the model helps us understand how the strategy is executed. Here's the heart of chapter 4, or week 6, chapter 4 of the textbook, and week 6 of our schedule. The 5 business level strategies mapped in a simple 2x2 matrix, plus 1 in the middle. So 2x2 matrix. The 2 dimensions are the source of a competitive advantage, like low cost versus distinctiveness, 2 dimensions, and the target market. So 2 dimensions are the source of competitive advantage and the target market. Target market is divided into broad versus narrow. So these are 2 dimensions. Broad market plus lowest cost. So that's called the cost leadership. They serve everyone who wants the lowest price. Okay, that's the strategy. And broad market, they want to target broad market, but they want to provide distinctive product. So broad market plus distinctiveness makes differentiation strategy. They serve everyone who value uniqueness and is willing to pay more. And narrow market plus low cost is called focused cost leadership. A narrow market plus distinctiveness is called focused differentiation. And in the middle, it's called integrated cost leadership and differentiation. It's integrated, it's combined. You need to know the very important point. The important point is that no strategy is inherently better than another. Nothing is better than another. The right strategy depends on what's happening in your external environment and what resources you have internally. That's why we learned external environment and internal resource before the midterm exam. So you understand that concept, and then now you can examine each strategy in detail. Okay, let's examine examples of brands in each category. I'll give you examples. So we talked about this part as a cost leadership strategy. It's a broad market, targeting broad market, and they're focusing on the low cost. So a great example of this cost leadership company is Walmart. Walmart is a great example of cost leadership because it serves the broad market with a low cost. The company keeps costs low through large-scale purchasing and efficient supply chains and strong control over operating expenses. So they have like deep knowledge and know-hows to keep it low. Its main promise to customers is simple. So their catchphrase is save money on everyday products. That's their catchphrase. It's tightly connected with their cost leadership strategy. Because Walmart serves many different types of customers at low prices, it fits the low cost plus broad market strategy. And next, we want to take a look at the example of differentiation strategy. The great example is Apple, right? Apple is a good example of differentiation because it serves a broad market, but competes through distinctiveness. Apple products are not usually the cheapest. It's rather expensive, but customers value their design, brand image, and user experience and ecosystem, right? It's very distinguished. The company creates a strong loyalty by making its products feel simple, premium, and connected. Because Apple reaches many customers while offering a unique value, it fits broad market plus distinctiveness strategy, so differentiation strategy. Now let's go to focused cost leadership. Okay, Days Inn and Super 8 Motel are examples of a focused cost leadership, and because they serve narrow market segment with a low cost lodging. In this category, the companies do not try to serve every hotel customers. Instead, they focus on price-sensitive travelers. Days Inn, um, Days Inn can be viewed as a family-focused budget lodging brand because it often serves families and road trip travelers who need affordable, simple, and practical accommodations. Families may choose Days Inn because they want basic comfort, convenient locations, and reasonable prices without paying for luxury services. They don't want like luxury services. And Motel 8, and they're in the same strategy, focus the cost leadership, but they are targeting different narrow market. So Super 8 can be viewed as a brand focused more on individual travelers, while Days Inn are viewed as a brand focused more on family and regular travelers. So Super 8 is viewed as a brand focused on individual travelers, long distance drivers, and business travelers. So usually they're just one person or two persons. These customers often need a basic, reliable, and low-priced room for short stay. Therefore, both brands are narrow market plus low cost. But Days Inn is easier to explain as family focused, while Super 8 is individual traveler focused. Now let's move to the focus differentiation. Whole Foods Market is a good example of focused differentiation because it targets a narrower group of health-conscious and quality-focused customers, not broad market as Walmart, right? And at the same time, Whole Foods focus on organic foods, natural products, premium grocery quality, and healthier shopping experience. This makes Whole Foods differs from any other like discount stores, right? So Whole Foods does not try to be the cheapest grocery store. It tries to be more distinctive and trusted by customers who care about food quality and lifestyle because it serves a specific customer group through unique value. That's why Whole Foods fits focused differentiation. Let's move to the last section, last strategy, integrated cost and differentiation. So Target and Trader Joe's are strong examples of integrated strategy because they offer reasonable prices while also creating distinctive customer value. So Target does this through stylish products and better shopping experience, while Trader Joe's does it through unique private label products and fun store atmosphere. So we'll take a look at these integrated strategy part later in the slides later. Let's now examine each strategy in detail. Okay, let's dive into the first and perhaps the most well-known strategy, cost leadership. The definition is straightforward. Produce goods and product that are acceptable to customers, but at a lower cost than anyone else in the industry. Here's the keyword, acceptable. Cost leaders don't make bad products. Okay, cost leader does not mean they want to make like really bad quality product. They make products that meet customers' minimal acceptable standards. Like for a great example is Ryanair. Ryanair gets you from London to Rome. It might not serve you a meal or fancy like a drinks or wines, but it gets you there. So Ryanair, they provide the service with a minimum customers' needs. So some customers, they want like a fancy food and meals and wines during the flight. Probably they should take other airlines. But the customers who ride Ryanair airline, they don't need them. So that's why they choose Ryanair. And how do cost leaders actually achieve low cost? Through process innovations, reimagining how things are made and delivered, through outsourcing. Like outsourcing is a great strategy to achieve lower cost product or service. So through outsourcing, finding the cheapest global suppliers. I gave you example in previous lecture with the Nike example. So Nike, they don't manufacture in the US because they know their manufacturing cost is at least 3 times, 4 times more than, 3, 4 times higher than manufacturing in other emerging countries like Vietnam or Indonesia. So they outsource instead of they manufacture in-house. So finding the cheapest global suppliers is one of the strategy. And the other strategy to achieve the low cost is through economies of scale. Economies of scale means producing huge volumes, so per unit costs drop. And that's a very effective strategy. A lot of like chocolate companies, M&M is a great example, right? They manufacture huge volumes, so they drop down per unit cost. So that's called economies of scale. And through relentless monitoring of every activity in the value chain. So look at the airline, Frontier, Ryanair, EasyJet, AirAsia. These are not just the cheap companies. They've systematically redesigned every aspect of their operation to minimize cost. No assigned seats, fees for luggage, okay, and quick turnarounds at airports to maximize aircraft usage. So those are the systems and operations they apply to keep the cost low. The question for these firms is not how do we make customers happy with the extras? It's not. It is how do we strip away everything that adds a cost without crossing the line of unacceptability? That is a very different strategic mindset. That's cost leadership. Now let's analyze how cost leadership helps a firm navigate the 5 competitive forces from the chapter 2. The week 2. So against the rivals, if you're the cheapest producer, other firms are afraid to start a price war with you because you can outlast them. Walmart wins price wars. Competitors don't start them. Against buyers, powerful buyers want lower prices, but there's a floor. The cost leader can resist pressure because even at a very low price, it can still earn returns while rivals cannot. The cost leader's next most efficient competitor essentially sets the minimum price floor. Suppliers. A cost leader typically operates with margins that allow it to absorb supplier price increases. And its massive purchasing volume give it leverage to negotiate prices down. Think of Walmart's enormous supply chain power. They have power, right? And new entrants. High efficiency creates high barriers. A new entrant would need years to achieve the same scale and process efficiency. Until they do, they cannot earn normal returns. And substitutes. The cost leader has the most pricing flexibility. That's a substitute product threatens. If a substitute product threatens, the cost leader can simply lower prices further and keep customers. Cost competitors cannot do as easily. So this is why cost leadership is just a powerful position when executed correctly. And cost leadership is powerful, but it's not risk-free. Let's talk about there are three major risks. Risk one is process obsolescence. Technology can completely undermine your cost advantage overnight. If a competitor develops a new manufacturing technology that's dramatically cheaper, your entire efficient process suddenly becomes irrelevant. This happens to many manufacturing firms when Chinese factories achieved much lower labor costs. Your efficiency is always relative to what's currently possible. And another example can be robotic factory. If a factory is utilizing like more than 80% of the robots in the manufacturing system, then the human-based factories cannot be compared. Risk number two is over-focused on cost reduction. There's a danger of cutting costs past the point that customers find acceptable. Walmart has faced the criticism for understaffing stores, leading to poor customer service. When customers feel the quality or service is dropped below an acceptable level, they leave. And the third one is imitation. Other firms can study your methods and replicate them. When EasyJet's no-frills model proved successful, other European airlines copied it. When imitation succeeds, your cost advantage erodes. At that point, you need to find a new way to create value. Either lower prices even further or start adding differentiated features. The bottom line is cost leadership requires constant vigilance. You cannot just set it and forget it. Now let's turn to the second major strategy, differentiation. The key word here is perceived customers must perceive the product as different in ways that matter to them. It's not enough to be objectively different. Customers must value that difference enough to pay a premium. Also notice the definition says at an acceptable cost. At an acceptable cost. This is crucial. Differentiators are not free to ignore cost completely. If your product is so expensive to produce that you cannot charge a reasonable premium, your strategy fails. So you have to consider that. The customer must be willing to pay incrementally more than the additional cost of creating the differentiated feature. Think about BMW. The car costs more to engineer and manufacture than a Toyota Corolla, but customers pay significantly more because they perceive superior performance, prestige, and engineering and luxury, like a style to show off. So BMW's premium exceeds its additional costs. So the value that customer get or perceived value that customer get must exceed the premium, the cost of the product. So it's additional cost. Now look at the right side. There are almost unlimited ways to differentiate. Unusual features, rapid innovation, technological leadership, perceived prestige, engineering performance, customer service responsiveness. So this is a key contrast with the cost leadership. The ways to reduce cost are finite. The ways to create perceived value are virtually unlimited. That's a powerful advantage for these differentiators. The challenge, you must constantly upgrade those features. The moment Apple stops innovating, customers start questioning whether the iPhone premium is worth it. The differentiation is never static. How does differentiation work against the 5 competitive forces? Against the rivals, brand loyalty is the differentiator's best weapon. When customers genuinely love a brand, think Apple fans, Harley-Davidson's riders, Lego enthusiasts, competitors find it very hard to lure them away with the price cuts. Loyal customers are less price sensitive and will stay even when a rival offers something cheaper. Against the buyers, buyer bargaining power depends on how easily they can switch. With a truly differentiated product, there's nowhere else to go. Customers cannot easily get the same experience elsewhere. Apple can raise iPhone prices and most loyal customers still buy. Against the suppliers, differentiators can pass along cost increases to customers more readily because their customers' brand loyalty makes them somewhat price insensitive. This weakens the impact of supplier power. New entrants. Building a differentiated brand takes years and enormous investment. Samsung has spent billions trying to match Apple's brand loyalty and ecosystem. New entrants face the same challenge. Brand reputation is a powerful entry barrier. And substitutes. Loyal customers are psychologically committed to the differentiated product. Switching to a substitute feels like a step down, even if the substitute costs less. Apple users don't easily switch to other phones, even with a significant cost savings. So even Apple users, even though they know, like Huawei, the Chinese, the cost-effective product, are much lower priced than Apple, they're not easily switched to Huawei products. So that's a great example. The power of differentiation ultimately comes down to one thing: making customers feel that your product is irreplicable, irreplaceable. Let's look at the risks. Just like cost leadership, differentiation carries significant risks. Risk one, the price value equation breaks down. Differentiation is only sustainable if customers believe the extra features are worth the extra price. During recessions, many consumers switch from premium brands to budget alternatives. Not because the premium product got worse, but because the value equation changed when money got tight. So environment and situation of the customers change their decision making. Differentiators must constantly reassure customers that their premium is justified. Risk two is imitation. So, like Apple case, when competitors successfully mimic the differentiation features, customers start asking, why should I pay more for Apple, right? So differentiators must innovate continuously. Standing still means falling behind. Risk three is counterfeiting. This is particularly relevant for luxury goods. When high quality counterfeit, like Louis Vuitton handbag or Rolex watches, flood the market, two things happen. The brand's exclusivity is diluted. If they, supply or they manufacture a lot and supply to the market with a huge volume, their exclusivity is diluted. So they intentionally control the supply of the product. And some customers buy the fake instead of the real thing. For companies built on prestige differentiation, counterfeiting is an existential threat. The bottom line is differentiation is a race. You must stay far enough ahead of imitators and continually justify the premium you charge. Now let's move on to focus strategies. So think about this way. Instead of competing across the entire industry, a focuser says, I'm going to be the best option for this one specific group of customers. The focus cost leadership. Great example is IKEA. IKEA is the textbook example. IKEA's target customer is very specific. Young adults who want stylish, modern furniture, but don't have a lot of money. They want to be economical. To serve this segment profitably, IKEA redesigned every aspect of its business. Flat-packed furniture that customers assemble themselves saves manufacturing and shipping costs. Giant showrooms where you can see complete room setups. It eliminates the need for sales consultants, right? You just display and the show at the store, and then customers, they test it, they touch it, they feel it, and then they make decision. You don't need to hire sales consultants with the high costs, so they can eliminate the expense. And the global supply chain focused on keeping costs minimal. So it's not trying to serve luxury shoppers. It's not trying to serve commercial real estate firms. It focuses only on its target segment. Focused differentiation. Goya Foods focus exclusively on Hispanic consumers, offering thousands of authentic Latin food products. Goya has deep cultural knowledge and authentic supplier relationships that a general supermarket chain simply cannot replicate. That deep specialization creates tremendous loyalty within the niche. The key success conditions for focus strategies is the segment must have unique needs that broad-based competitors don't serve well. And the focuser must create more value for that segment than competitors do. Both IKEA and Goya meet these conditions. But focus strategies have specific risks. Let's look at those. So focus strategies have three unique risks. So the first one is getting out-focused. Someone can always narrow their focus further than you. Like Zero Motorcycles built a successful business serving electronic motorcycle enthusiasts, a very specific niche. Then Harley-Davidson's announced they are entering the electronic motorcycle market. Suddenly, the niche is no longer safe. A larger, better resourced competitor is coming for it. This is the constant danger for focusers. Risk two is broad competitors enter your niche. If your niche becomes large and profitable enough, large firms will notice. They want to make money as well. So, and they decide it's worth competing for. So Peloton approved there's a market for premium connected fitness equipment. Then Apple, Nordic Track, and others entered. Peloton's comfortable niche suddenly became crowded. Risk three is niche needs converge. This is perhaps the most subtle risk. Over time, what major customers' needs unique might disappear. Radio Shack is a great example. Radio Shack served electronics hobbyists, people who want to buy individual circuit components, like solder their own gadgets and build things from scratch. But as customer electronics became ubiquitous and easier to use, the specialist demand faded. Radio Shack's niche dissolved, and the firm never successfully adapted. So they're gone now. So the lesson is that a niche is never permanently safe. Focusers must continuously monitor whether their segments and unique needs remain truly distinct from the broader market. So we've covered 4 of the 5 strategies. Now let's look at the most ambiguous one, the integrated cost leadership and differentiation strategy. I told you in the previous slide that I will explain in more detail for this part. So here's the motivation. Research on customers consistently shows that most people want both. They want reasonable price and at the same time, good quality. That's what we want always, right? So they want value and more distinctiveness. The integrated strategy attempts to deliver both simultaneously. So Target is a great example in this context. Their tagline says that like it has every meaning, like expect more and pay less. Target offers somewhat differentiated products. They do collaborations with the designers, their stores, and cleaner and more attractively laid out than Walmart's. And they provide a better customer service experience. But they are not Nordstrom, like luxury department store. Their prices are lower than specialty retailers. They exist in the productive middle ground. So that's why they're a great example. Target is a great example of an integrated strategy. The big question Students always ask, then isn't this the best strategy? Why not just do both? No, why not all companies just do both? It seems like it's the best strategy. That's a great question. And the answer is, it is the hardest strategy to execute successfully, actually. So you have to achieve operational efficiency good enough to keep costs competitive, and at the same time, maintain enough distinctiveness that customers don't just go to Walmart. So you're trying to win on two fronts simultaneously. Porter himself warned against being stuck in the middle, a firm that is neither the cheapest nor distinctive enough. The integrated strategy can become stuck in the middle if not executed with the discipline and flexibility. So what does a successful execution require? Okay, we want to learn how. So, and another, I want to give you another good example of an integrated strategy. Trader Joe keeps costs low by offering a limited number of products, using many private label, like most of the products are private label, and operating relatively small and efficient stores instead of like a big discount store like Walmart, Costco, Target. No, they run small, efficient store. At the same time, Trader Joe's differentiates itself through unique products and friendly employees, creative packaging, and a fun shopping experience. And customers often feel that they are getting special and interesting products at reasonable prices, not just the cheap groceries. Both of these combinations, Trader Joe's competes successfully by being both affordable and distinctive in the grocery market. So let's continue, okay? Executing. How do we execute the integrated strategy successfully? Okay, it requires three factors. Flexible manufacturing systems. In traditional manufacturing, there's an inherent trade-off between variety and efficiency. Making many different products is very expensive, and mass producing just one product is cheap, but you don't have, like customers don't have many choices, right? So there are trade-offs. So using like computer-controlled processes, firms can switch between producing different products quickly and cheaply. So flexible manufacturing system is number one. The example is the Ford example is vivid. Their production lines in China can introduce entirely new vehicle models within hours, not the weeks or months traditional manufacturing requires. This means they can respond to market demand in real time, phasing in new models as customers want them. So that's example, the Ford and Changan example. Okay. The China and Ford, Chinese company and Ford collaboration is a great example of achieving that. And information networks, CRM, you cannot offer customers exactly what they value unless you know what they value. So customer relationship management, CRM stands for customer relationship management. So CRM systems give firms a 360-degree view of their customer relationships. Salesforce is mentioned in the in the lecture as a leading example. When you know your customers' preferences, purchase history, and price sensitivity, you can make intelligent decisions about where to invest in differentiation and where to cut costs. And total quality management, TQM, it seems, counterintuitive at first. How do you cut costs by improving quality? Here's the logic. When a product is made right the first time, if you make a product right in the first time, there's no rework, no warranty claims, no customer service calls, and no returns. So that's why quality control is very important. Each of those costs money, right? The warranty claim and a rework, customer service call, those are all money, costs, and expense. So better quality equals fewer defects, and fewer defects equals to lower total cost. And how can you achieve that? Lower total cost through TQM, total quality management. So TQM achieves the seemingly impossible, higher quality and lower costs simultaneously. So these three capabilities together make the integrated strategy viable. And they have risks as well. Imagine trying to win a race by being the fastest and the safest driver. These goals pull you in opposite directions, right? Safe and fast. The integrated strategy faces similar tension. Stuck in the middle is the Porter's phrase for a firm that tries to be both a cost leader and a differentiator, but succeeds at neither. It's not cheap enough to win on price and not distinctive enough to command a premium. So these firms end up with below average returns because they have no real competitive advantage. Think about mid-range department stores in the US, like a Sears is a great example. So for decades, the Sears tried to offer both low prices and quality products. But Walmart beat them on price, and specialty retailers like Best Buy beat them on selection and expertise. So Sears ended up stuck in the middle and eventually went bankrupt. The integrated strategy requires a sustained organizational flexibility. You need flexible manufacturing to keep costs down while offering variety. You need information networks such as the CRM, customer relationship management, to know what customers truly value. You need TQM, total quality management, to cut costs without sacrificing quality. If any of these capabilities weakens, you drift toward the middle. The bottom line is that this strategy can work brilliantly as targeted, as demonstrated, but it demands disciplined, continuous execution on two fronts simultaneously. So here's a concise comparison of all 5 strategies. This is a great reference table for your study, for your summary. Okay. The cost leadership, broad market, lower cost advantage. Main risk is that your process gets made obsolete or imitated. The example was Walmart and Ryanair. Differentiation, broad market, unique perceived value. Main risk is that the price premium is no longer justified in customers' minds. The example is Apple. And focused cost leadership, narrow market, lowest cost in that niche, Main risks are getting out focused by an even more specialized competitors or a broad competitor entering your niche. The example was Motel 8 and Days Inn. And focused differentiation, narrow market, uniqueness within the niche. Main risk is that the niche needs start to look just like the broader market over time. Example is the Goya Food and uh, Whole Foods market. Integrated cost differentiation. Broad or narrow market achieves both low cost and differentiation. Main risk is getting stuck in the middle. If you fail to achieve either advantage well, then it's very risky. The example was Target and Trader Joe's. So this is the summary of this week's lecture. Okay. Point one, business level strategy. We learned the term. Okay, is fundamentally about creating differences between your firm's position and competitors. Every firm needs one as the core strategy around which all others are built. And point two is customers. Customers are the starting point. Before choosing a strategy, ask, who are we serving? What needs do they have? How do we meet those needs better than rivals? Strategy without a clear customer focus is just a plan in a vacuum. And point three, business models, franchise, subscription, digital platform, and so on. They are the mechanism that turns a strategy into profit. Same strategy can work with different business models. And the five strategies offer different paths to competitive advantage. The right choice depends on your internal capabilities and the external environment, not on what sounds most impressive. Okay, so you have to look at both your internal resource and also you need to monitor and evaluate the external environment. And no strategy is permanent or risk-free. Cost leaders face imitation. Differentiators face conversion case. Focusers face invaders. Integrated firms risk the middle, being stocked in the middle. Competitive advantage must be continuously renewed. Lastly, strategy is executed through integrated activities. It's not what you say your strategy is, it's the hundreds of daily decisions and activities that either reinforce it or undermine it. And thank you for your attention today.